Hi everybody. In this lesson we will be looking at division and using the bus stop method, which is a very effective method um, to solve division problems. Okay, now before we start, there's quite a few layers to division. So what I mean by that is today we're going to only be doing something called short division, which means we'll be dividing by one digit numbers and we won't be dealing with remainders today. Okay, that's a separate lesson. I say that, but there is one question at the end where we're going to have a bit of a sneak peek at remainder questions. But mainly today, we are not covering remainders into decimals and we're not doing long division. Okay, so just short division today. Make sure we get that um, mastered, properly mastered, and then in future lessons we'll look at long division and remainders. Okay, so two focuses today. Either number one, you're a bit unsure about short division, and then therefore your focus is just making sure you know how to do it. Or number two, you already think that you might be quite good at this, and if that is the case, let's focus a little bit on speed, okay, making sure we get the answer as quickly as possible. But having said that, if you are quite new to it or unsure of it, don't worry too much about speed, okay? Just make sure that we're accurate at getting the answers correct. All right, so as usual, I'll go through one all by myself. All right. So I know it's tempting to answer if you think you know how to do it, but just let me do this one all by myself, okay? So the question says, a school has ordered 966 pencils. The head teacher decides that 60 pencils must go to the school's office, whilst the remaining pencils are shared equally between 6 year groups. How many pencils does each year group receive? Okay, this is a two-step problem because it tells us that the school has ordered 966. But before we share them out to our 6 year groups, we need to deal with this part because 60 of the pencils are going to the school's office before we do any division. Okay, so let's quickly go to my list. I am going to show you the division all by myself, but let me quickly ask George. George, what should I do before I do any division?
You have to draw like a little box, kind of.
No, George, before I do any division, what do I need to do? Look, a school has ordered 966 pencils.
You have to
60.
underline the like facts you already know.
Hold on, George. Listen really carefully. I've got 966 pencils. I need to give 60 pencils to the school's office, and then I'm going to divide what I've got.
966 minus
George,
60.
George, just let me finish, okay? But I think you just said the answer. What did you say, George?
966 minus 60.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So before we do anything, we've got to take into account that we are not dealing with 966 pencils when we divide. Instead, we need to first give 60 pencils to the school's office. Okay. So we've got 966 pencils altogether. Then we're giving 60 of those away, aren't we, to the school's office? So let's subtract 60. I reckon you can probably do that in your head. We're taking just six tens away, aren't we? And what we're going to be left with, we are going to be left with 906. Okay, now we've got 906 pencils left. Now let's read the question again. A school has ordered 966 pencils. The head teacher decides that 60 pencils must go to the school's office, whilst the remaining, which we now know is 906, are shared equally between 6 year groups. Okay, so the pencils that I have left, 906, need to be shared equally between 6 year groups. So we're dividing 906 by 6, aren't we? So this is where we use the bus stop, okay? So 906 goes inside the bus stop, okay? This is what we call the dividend, the number that we're dividing. And on the outside of the bus stop is how much we're dividing by. In this case, 6, yeah? 6 year groups. So that's how we set it out, all right? Now, once we've set it out, we can start solving, okay? So how do we do this? Well, we get our divisor here, number 6, and we're going to see how many times it goes into each number, okay? So how many times does 6 go into 9? Well, if I do my 6 times table, I can only do 6 times 1, can't I? Because if I go any higher, it's going to go higher than 9. It's going to go above 9. So 6 goes into 9 once. Okay, now this is the important bit where some people get confused. So watch carefully. 6 times 1 is 6. And we wanted to get to 9, didn't we? So I've got a remainder there. I've got 3 left over, okay? Because I landed on 6 and I wanted to get to 9. And that remainder goes in front of the next number. So this 0 now becomes 30, okay? So I'm going to do it again, but I've got to take into account that this new number in the middle is 30. It's no longer 0. Okay, how many times does 6 go into 30? Let's do our 6 times tables. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So 6 times 5 is 30. And it lands on 30 exactly. There is no remainder. Okay? So I don't need to put anything in front of the next number because I have no remainder. And then finally, 6 goes into 6. Well, obviously just once. 6 times 1 is 6. No remainder. As I said, we're not doing remainders today. So we have our answer written on the top there. 151. Therefore, how many pencils does each year group receive? 151. All right, let me ask a question. A bit of an unusual question. I'm going to ask Alexa. Alexa, why do you think that in an exam they might tell us that we first need to give 60 pencils away? What might be the point of that? What are they checking, do you reckon?
I think they're maybe trying to check, say, like if there was a situation where we had to substitute, they'll probably say we have to take away 60 pencils so we would know what would happen.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Alexa. Let me just ask one more person before I say what I think. Scarlett, what do you think the point of that that part of the question is? Does this exam question bother asking us to first subtract 60 pencils?
Because it's checking how thorough you are. If you're just looking at the first 2 numbers you see and doing that instead of actually reading the question properly.
Perfect. That's exactly why, yeah? It's checking that it's making sure you read the question correctly, because what some students might do is they might see 966 and then they see the number 6 here, think, well, I'm just going to do that. 966 divided by 6, and obviously my answer is going to be different to the one that I got. So it's making sure that you read the question carefully, and that is something that's checked regularly, okay? The exams are always checking to make sure you've read the question very carefully. That's why it's really important to read the question carefully. All right, so it's your go, guys. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read the next question, but from the question after that onwards, you've got to read it all by yourself. Okay, so the next question says, 544 children attended the Young Voices singing event. The children came from 4 different schools, and each school sent the same number of students. How many students did each school send? So give that a go, and then I'll talk to you again in about 1 minute. Perfect Gosima. Perfect Ava. Perfect Arianoki. Perfect Scarlett. Perfect Jacob. Perfect Jordan. Amazing Florence. Amazing Joshua. Very good, guys. If you've answered and I've not said your name, check your answer. Remember, don't worry too much about speed today. You know, if you think you're amazing at this and you can answer it correctly every time, then maybe focus a lot on speed. But for now, the most important thing is accuracy. Perfect Hayden. Well done, Thomas. If you can't see the question, Harry, you might need to log out and log in again because the question is up there and others can see it, so it might be an issue on your end. I do apologise, Harry. Perfect, Alexa. That's it, Chrissy. Right, 10 seconds. Okay. Okay, all right, well done, guys. So we're going to go through, amazing Kiva, very good. We're going to go through this now. There were a couple of incorrect answers. Do not worry if you were not correct. In other words, if I didn't say your name and you answered, do look really, really carefully. Focus really, really carefully, okay? Because division in an exam is, we know we're going to have to divide in an exam, okay? It's you're going to be asked to divide, okay? So it's an important skill. Okay, so 544 children attended the Young Voices singing event. The children came from 4 different schools and each school sent the same number of students. So let's go to Jacob. Jacob, what do you think are the 2 numbers involved in this question? I can see 544 and I can also see 4, but can you sort of contextualize it? What are those 2 numbers telling us?
So let's start with 544. 544 is the total children that attended this, and then 4 is equal to you have to the number you have to divide, so the number of schools, how much they're split, how much people come into 4 different schools equally.
Okay, and why do you think it says this bit? Each school sent the same number of students. What was the point of adding that to the question?
So if you didn't say same number of students, it might have been like a different one, so it'd be hard. But same number, you divide it equally.
Yeah, very good. Because it says same number of students, guys, it means we know we can divide equally. We can divide by the 4 schools because they all sent the same number, so we can divide by 4. Okay, so let's do it. First step, we're going to see how many times 4 goes into 5. Okay, so 4 into 5, we know it's 1 because 4 times 1 is 4. Now we landed on 4, didn't we? 4 times 1 is 4. We wanted to get to 5, so I've got that 1 remainder, and that 1 remainder goes in front of the next number, so this now becomes 14. And I can see a couple of you forgot that bit, yeah? You must put the remainder in front of the next number. That's why a couple of you got 111 as your answer, okay? All right, how many times does 4 go into 14? Well, let's do this carefully. 4, 8, 12. We have to stop there because if we go any further, we're going to go above 14. So 12, 4, 8, 12. So 4 times 3 is 12, and we wanted to get to 14. So what's the difference between 12 and 14? It's 2. So that remainder goes in front of the next number, and this number now becomes 24. How many times does 4 go into 24? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. 4 times 6 is 24, no remainder, so that's our answer. Our answer is 136. So well done if you said that. And if you didn't, hopefully you can see where you might have gone wrong. Okay, and if you have gone wrong, don't worry about it. Keep focusing and you will get there. Okay, all right, ready for the next one? Oops, sorry, there we go. Perfect, Ava. Perfect, Gersima. Perfect, Jacob. Perfect, Scarlett. got to be really careful with your answers, okay? A couple of you are sending answers like that 1 out. Be really careful. Make sure you look really carefully. Perfect, Jordan. Perfect, Ragnar. Don't worry if you don't get it. I'll explain in a second. Perfect, Thomas. Perfect, Alexa. Right, 10 seconds. And there might be a little bit of confusion with this question, but don't worry, we'll talk about it, okay? That's it, Chrissy. All right, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, let's go through it. So, a couple of you might have been confused with this question. I'll explain why in a second. Firstly, let's go to Gersima. Gersima, what are the two numbers that are going to be involved in this question?
The two numbers are 392 and 7.
392 and 7. And what are those two numbers, Gersima? In context with the question, what do those two numbers tell us?
Those are the two numbers we need to divide by.
Sorry, what I mean, Gersima, is what is 392 in the question? How have we quantified to get 392? Look at this question. What thing is represented by 392?
Pastries.
Perfect. And why the number 7?
Because that's how many days there were.
Fantastic. All right. So, Gersima, I'm a bit confused here because 7 into 3 is impossible. What am I going to do here, Gersima?
So we know that 7 doesn't go into 3. So we put the 3 next to the 9, and that makes it 39. Then we do 7 divided by 39, which is 5. Remainder 4. So we put the 4 next to the 2, and 42 divided by 7 gives us 6.
Amazing. Well explained, Gersima. Very, very good. So that's a perfect explanation. I'm going to add one thing to it. I mean, Gersima's explanation was perfect, but I'm just going to add one thing to it for those that might be a bit confused. So take another look if you're a bit confused, right? This is just another way of looking at it. It's an alternative way of looking at it. Gersima was perfectly fine with what he said. But what I would sort of express is 7 goes into 3 0 times. The reason I would express that is just so I can see that we've kind of like dealt with the 3, yeah? So 7 goes into 3 0 times, and 7 times 0, so this times that, is 0. So we've landed on 0, and we wanted to land on 3, which means I have a 3 remainder. So it's just another way of looking at it, that's all. And then as Gersima said, we had 39 divided by 7. Let's do our 7 times table. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. So 7 times 5 is 35. We wanted to land on 39, so I have a remainder of 4. And 7 into 42, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 6. By the way, division is a great reminder of why times tables is really important, okay? You saw how I said 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56. It's because I know my 7 times tables very well, okay? So if that's the bit that's sort of troubling you, if you're finding that part of this question tricky, do make sure that we do practice our times tables, okay? They're really important across all of maths, not just division. All right, well done, guys. Ready for the next one? Give this a go. Perfect, Alexa. Perfect, Ari and Oki. Very good. Perfect, Ava. Perfect, Gersima. Perfect, Jacob. Perfect, Jordan. Perfect, Scarlett. Perfect, Himani. Perfect, Harry. Perfect, Ira. Perfect, Hayden. Perfect, Florence. Perfect, Kiva. This is brilliant, guys. Perfect, Oscar. All right. 10 more seconds. If I've not said your name and you have answered, make sure you focus when we go through the explanation, okay? As usual, I'll get someone to help with the explanation, but I'll also explain it. Then you hear it twice, yeah? Okay. Let's go to... Who did we go to last time? Went to Gersima. Okay, Himani, can you talk to me about this question? What's our dividend? What's our divisor?
A sweet shop sells a huge jar of 92 chewy
Careful,
sweets.
920, yeah?
The jar has an equal number of strawberry, cherry, lemon, Coca-Cola, and toffee sweets. How many strawberry sweets does the jar contain? To order to find the strawberry, you have to see how much does the strawberry, cherry, lemon, and Coca-Cola and toffee does. So they are 1 is strawberry, 2 is cherry, 3 is lemon, and 4 is Coca-Cola, and 5 is toffee. So 5 divided by 920 is gonna be 184.
Awesome, well done. Good explanation here, Manny. Perfect. Okay, so let's see if he's correct. I've got a feeling he is. So 920 divided by 5, right? Now, be careful with these sorts of questions because we are not given a divisor, are we? We have to kind of work it out ourselves. We're given the dividend, 920. That's how much we've got to, how many things we have to divide. But the divisor, we need to count how many different sweets there are. Strawberry, cherry, lemon, cola, and toffee. So there's 5 different types of sweets. And we know we can divide by 5 because the question says there's an equal number of sweets. So it's okay to divide by 5, okay? So let's do it. How many times does 5 go into 9? Well, 5 goes into 9 the once. 5 times 1 is 5. We wanted to get to 9, which means we've got a remainder of 4, which goes in front of the next number, which now becomes 42. Then we do 5 into 42, so do it very carefully. 5 times tables are quite easy, aren't they? And you know, funny enough, they're the times tables that sometimes go wrong because we're so quick and so confident, we might sort of skip a number, so be really careful when you're counting, okay? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. I counted 8 times, okay? So 5 times 8 is 40. We wanted to get to 42. So I have a remainder of 2, which goes in front of the next number. And then finally, 5 into 20. We know that's 5 times 4, don't we? And there's our answer. 184. You're doing really, really well, guys. Keep it going, okay? All right, ready for the next one? Give it a go, guys. Perfect, Jordan. Perfect, Scarlett. Perfect, Alexa. Joshua, your first answer was correct. Perfect, Gersima. Perfect, Thomas. Perfect, Jacob. Perfect, George. Perfect, Ragnar. Perfect, Kiva. Perfect, Oscar. All right, 10 seconds. Perfect, Florence. You're doing very well, guys. And if you are struggling with it, do not worry. Just focus on the explanation, okay? Perfect, Arianoki. Shall we go through it? So we spoke to Himani last, so let's talk to Hayden. All right, Hayden, can you talk to us about this question?
Okay, so what I'll do first is Kamoli has 129 stickers. She divides the stickers into 8 piles and she uses 1 pile to decorate her water bottle. So what I'll do first, 1 pile to decorate her water bottle. So would that mean we have to minus 1 from 192?
Okay. All right. All right. So,
Mhm.
all right. Do you want to keep going, Hayden, or do you want me to? Or go on, keep going, Hayden.
Okay. Then we got, and then what I'll do now is we divide 8 into 192.
All right. So 192 divided by 8. All right. What's next?
Now, 8 into 1 would be 0. Then we got to do 8 divided by 19 would be 2. Then the remainder would be 3. So we'll put it, and then 2. So we'll put it there. And now 8 into 32, 4. So it'd be 24.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Hayden. Very good. So this one's a little bit wordy. I mean, we've got the number 1 and the number 8 and the number 192. So like Scarlett said earlier, it requires us to read the question really carefully. Okay. So let's just really quickly talk about this question for those that are a bit confused, although Hayden's explanation was good. Kiva's got 192 stickers, okay? And the first part says she divides the stickers, so she divides all of these into 8 equal piles. So before we look at this part, we already know that we need to divide 192 by 8, which we just did. Yeah, 192 divided by 8, which gave us 24. So what that suggests, what that tells us, is that we've got 8 piles each with 24 stickers in, because we've arranged them into 8 piles, and 192 divided by 8 is 24, which means each pile has 24 stickers, yeah? And then the question says, use 1 pile, she uses 1 pile to decorate her water bottle. Well, we know that 1 pile has 24, so the answer is 24. Okay, very good, guys. All right, so before we go any further, what I'd like you to do is quickly give me a number out of 10. How do you feel about short division? This is what we call short division, yeah? We're divided by 1 digit. Our divisor has 1 digit, so any number between 1 and 9 we're dividing by. Let me quickly look at your numbers. And remember, I know most of you are year 5, but if you are year 4 and you feel like you're not as quick as others, or it's a bit tricky, it's completely normal, okay? All right, well done, guys. What do you mean, guys? Don't say I don't know. I mean, you're assessing yourself. You should, give yourself a number that you think reflects you. Super confident means 10, doesn't it? Not confident at all means 0. So just think of a number between those numbers. Okay. All right. So to finish off, now at the start of the lesson, we said we're not going to look at questions that finish with a remainder. But let's do one, okay? Because this is going to be where we naturally lead into, where we talk about questions where we have to deal with a remainder. So we'll do one as a bit of a sneak peek, okay? And these are very, very common. These are very, very common questions. So Don't worry if you don't understand it today, because we'll go into this in a future lesson. But let's take a look at it, okay? It says a factory is packing 9,420 apples into boxes. Each box can hold 8 apples. How many apples will be left in the final box that is not completely full? So a bit more wordy, a little bit more going on here. So we've got to think a bit more carefully. Let me go to Ava. Ava, why is this question a bit different to the other questions? Don't worry if you don't know, because this is the only one we've done like this. But why is it different to the other ones?
Because it's not asking like how many like there's going to be. It's asking like what's the remainder of it, and also it's like more numbers.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well noticed actually. Much bigger number. But yeah, Ava says something really important there, which is when we do the division, we need to do a little bit more. It's not asking us to do what we did in the previous questions where we simply divide. We've got to think about it a little bit more carefully. It doesn't mean we don't have to divide. Of course, we do need to divide, but we've got to think a little bit more carefully about this one, okay? So what I'm going to do is do it one bit at a time, as we normally would, right? So we've got a factory which has 9,420 apples. And the factory is dividing these apples into boxes. Now, why do we need to divide by 8? I know it says the number 8, but how is 8 important? Florence, what can you contextualize 8? What does it mean to this question?
So basically, 8 is what I think it's what you're dividing it by.
Yeah, but what is 8 in the question? It's not the number of apples we have. We have 9,420 apples. So what's 8 doing in this question?
So it's saying that each box can hold 8 apples.
Good.
So it could be I'm not sure actually.
No, you're saying it all right. Honestly, you said it, Florence. You said it. Yeah. So I'm just going to ask Ira as well, even though Florence already dealt with that. Ira, what do you think 8 means in this question?
I think in this question, 8 means, though it's not the number of boxes that I have, you still need to divide it by 8 because if you divide it by 8, you might find out how many boxes they have, and then you'll also be able to find out the answer to the whole question.
Yeah, good. It's hard to explain, isn't it? I'm going to ask one more person and then we'll talk about it, guys. Annabelle, finally, what do you think 8 means in this question?
Because in the question it says each box can hold 8 apples, so you're dividing by 8.
But what is 8?
8 is how many apples are in each box.
Yeah, good. We're grouping, aren't we? We're grouping these apples into groups of 8 because that's what a box holds. Okay. Now the reason I ask these awkward questions, I know they're a bit difficult to answer. You know what you need to do, but the reason I ask it is because it's a really good idea to contextualize things, right? What that means is when we're asked a word problem, think of it in our heads. What's actually going on in this factory? And what's going on is we've got 9,420 apples, and we're grouping them into groups of 8. That's why we would get the correct answer if we solve it. But remember, like Abe said earlier, there's a bit more to this one. So let's first solve it as we normally would, right? Now watch carefully because I've got an important question coming up. How many times does 8 go into 9? Okay, we know this. It goes in once. And 8 times 1 is 8. We wanted to get to 9, so I've got a remainder of 1, which goes in front of the next number. How many times does 8 go into 14? Be really careful. It's not twice, is it? Not quite, because 8 times 2 is 16. so it only goes once. 8 times 1 is 8. We wanted to get to 14, so I've got a remainder of 6. How many times does 8 go into 62? Be really careful. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56. We need to stop there, don't we? 8 times 7 is 56. I wanted to get to 62. What's my remainder? My remainder is 6. That goes in front of the next number. And finally, 8 goes into 60. 8, 16, 24, 32, 48, 56. Same as last time, isn't it? 8 times 7 is 56. We wanted to get to 60, but I've got a remainder of 4 here. I've got a remainder of 4. Can someone please tell me what that number means in this context? Do we just throw that number away? What's the point of that number? Let me go to... who's next? It's Ragnar. Ragnar, what is that number doing there?
The number that is the number that's left behind.
So yeah, so it's a remainder. It's left behind, but what does it mean for this question? Let's go back to the factory. What does that 4 represent?
The 4 represents how many the hundreds place. The 4 represents the apples that couldn't fit into the boxes.
Yes, very, very good, Ragnar. And therefore, Arianoki, last question, guys. You're doing well. Therefore, so Ragnar said 4 represents the apples that couldn't fit into the box. So now finish this question off.
What do you really mean?
So the question says, how many apples will be left in the final box that is not completely full? What's our answer, and how did we get to the answer? 4. And why do we know that? What happened in the question?
There were 4 leftover apples.
But how did we get to 4? I know I'm being really awkward, guys. I know I am.
Because 8 can't go into 60 without there being a remainder.
Yeah, so we've got a group with 4 left, haven't we?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well done, guys. Now, let me quickly, is everyone that had the hand up?
Thank you.
Was that to me? You're welcome if it was to me. So everyone's now had I've spoken to everyone, so I'm going to go back around once more. We are finished now. Let me go to Alexa. Alexa, why do you think that I keep asking awkward questions like what's going on? What does this number mean? How does it fit in with the question? Why is it important to be able to do stuff like that and think that way?
Because when we do the exam, there might be questions that we could get like really nerve-wracking questions on, and it's better you do that so then we would know the worst situation we could be in.
Cool, I like that. I'll ask one more. Scarlett, what do you think?
I think you're asking us all these questions because we need to have a good understanding of what we're doing.
Yeah, we need the mechanics. What's going on? What is this question all about? It's kind of like the behind the scenes of the question, isn't it? But also, if we can kind of contextualize it, if we can like paint this picture in our head with a factory and they've got these apples and they've got these boxes, suddenly the question becomes clearer. If we only look at the numbers, right, 94208, it might get a bit cloudy as we're going through it. You might think, what am I doing? What is this number? What's it for? And get a bit confused. So it's really good idea to sort of like contextualize things. What that means is see things as they are in reality. What's actually going on in this real scenario. Okay? All right, well done, guys. Now, we are finished. The good thing about division is if you do want to practice following this lesson, you can just totally make your own questions up. Honestly, guys, literally any question. You can write 4 random numbers like 7, 1, 3, 4, for example. Do the bus stop and put a random number, I don't know, 6, and solve it. Okay, you might have a remainder. Who cares? Practice remainders. But in the future lesson, we're going to be talking about more of these sorts of questions where we're dealing with a remainder, and we've got to be a bit more careful about these sorts of things. And of course, long divisions coming up as well. All right, well done, guys. If you're coming to the weekly virtual practice exam, I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.